In the pantheon of British boxing, few names loom as large or shine as brightly as Chris Eubank. With a personality as bold as his punches and a presence that turned every fight into a spectacle, he didn't just captivate fans, he became a cultural phenomenon. But who is Chris Eubank beyond the tailored suits, the bowler hats, and that unshakable swagger? What battles did he fight to climb from the shadows to the spotlight, and what storms of controversy followed in his wake? Today, we're peeling back the layers of this enigmatic legend, tracing the triumphs, the trials, and the transformative moments that forged one of boxing's most unforgettable characters. Buckle up for a journey through the life of Chris Eubank, a tale of grit, glory, and surprises around every corner. Let's start at the beginning, where the seeds of a champion were sown in unlikely soil. Chris Eubank was born on August 8, 1966, in Dulwich, South London, into a world that seemed determined to break him before he could rise. His early years were a crucible of hardship, shaped by the rough edges of a working-class neighborhood where survival often trumped dreams. The streets of Peckham, where he spent much of his youth, were a proving ground, tough, unforgiving, and teeming with challenges. His family life was far from stable. Instability at home led to stints in juvenile homes and detention centers, places that could have crushed a lesser spirit. But Eubank wasn't lesser. Beneath the chaos burned a fire, a restless, unyielding drive that refused to be snuffed out. It was in this storm of adversity that he stumbled into boxing, a discovery that would change everything. At 16, he found refuge in a local gym, a sanctuary where the clang of gloves against bags drowned out the noise of the streets. Boxing wasn't just a sport for him, it was salvation, a way to channel his anger, his frustration, his hunger into something tangible. Each jab, each hook carried the weight of his past, a young man punching his way toward a future he could control. He didn't step into the ring as a pro until 19, late by boxing standards, but those early years of struggle had forged something fierce within him. The gym taught him more than technique, it instilled discipline, focus, and a belief that he could rise above his circumstances. Every sweat-soaked session was a step away from the chaos of his youth, a declaration that he wouldn't be defined by where he started. This was the birth of Chris Eubank the fighter, a troubled kid turning his pain into power, setting the stage for an ascent that would shake the boxing world. When Eubank turned pro in 1985, he wasn't an instant star. He was raw, unpolished, but hungry, a diamond in the rough with a glint that couldn't be ignored. His early fights were a proving ground, small venues where he honed a style that was all his own. He moved with a deliberate grace, timing his shots with precision, and carried a confidence that bordered on arrogance. Knockouts piled up, each win a louder knock on the door of the boxing elite. Promoters took notice, fans started whispering his name, and the stage grew bigger with every step. Then came 1990, the year that changed everything. On November 18, Eubank faced Nigel Benn, the Dark Destroyer, a ferocious champion holding the WBO super middleweight title. This wasn't just a fight, it was a seismic event, a grudge match that set Britain ablaze. The build-up was pure theater, Benn's snarling intensity clashing with Eubank's cool, calculated bravado. Words flew like punches at press conferences, each man vowing to crush the other. The nation held its breath, sensing a showdown that would echo far beyond the ring. When the bell rang at Birmingham's National Exhibition Centre, the air crackled. Benn came out swinging, a whirlwind of power, but Eubank stood firm. For 9 brutal rounds, they traded blows, Benn's raw aggression met by Eubank's tactical finesse. Blood streaked their faces, the crowd roared, and in the 9th, Eubank landed a flurry that staggered Benn, forcing the referee to wave it off. The WBO title was his, but more than that, he'd claimed a spotlight that wouldn't dim. That night, Chris Eubank didn't just win a belt, he became a star, his blend of skill and showmanship lighting up the sport like never before. From there, his rise was meteoric. He defended his title with a flair that turned fights into events, each victory a performance, each punch a statement. His record grew, his legend swelled, and fans couldn't get enough. But greatness in boxing is a double-edged sword, and Eubank's path was about to twist into uncharted territory. The triumphs were dazzling, but the challenges, and the controversies, were just beginning. What made Eubank truly unforgettable wasn't just his wins, it was the way he owned the stage. Showmanship wasn't an afterthought for him, it was the heartbeat of his career. Picture this, Eubank striding into the arena in a pinstripe suit, bowler hat tipped just so, a cane in hand like some Victorian dandy reborn. Before the gloves even went on, he'd command the room, delivering pre-fight monologues that were half poetry, half provocation, words that painted him as a warrior philosopher ready to conquer. Fans didn't just watch him, they experienced him. In the ring, that flair carried over. His style was unorthodox, shoulders squared, chin high, moving with a swagger that dared opponents to hit him. He'd weave through punches, then snap back with crisp jabs and thudding hooks, every move laced with drama. He'd pause mid-fight to taunt, arms raised, soaking in the cheers, or jeers, as if feeding off the energy. It wasn't just boxing, it was performance art, a dance where he played both predator and showman. Critics grumbled that it was all too much, that the theatrics overshadowed the sport. They called him a poser, a peacock more interested in headlines than heart. But Eubank fired back, this was his truth, his way of elevating boxing beyond fists into something grander. And it worked. Crowds swelled, TV ratings soared, and his name became synonymous with spectacle. Beneath the flash, though, was a mind like a steel trap, strategic, adaptable, always a step ahead. That duality, bravado and brilliance, set him apart, reshaping how fighters could captivate the world. The fights that defined Eubank's legacy are the stuff of legend, none more so than his clashes with Nigel Benn. That first encounter in 1990 was a firestorm, two titans tearing into each other with a fury that left the UK spellbound. Benn's power was relentless, but Eubank's resolve was ironclad, his victory a coronation that launched him into the stratosphere. 3 years later, on October 9, 1993, they met again at Old Trafford, a rematch that drew 42,000 fans and millions more on TV. The stakes were personal now, pride, rivalry, legacy, and the fight was a war. 12 rounds of punishing exchanges ended in a draw, but the drama cemented their saga as one of boxing's greatest. Then came Michael Watson, a name forever tied to Eubank's story. On September 21, 1991, at White Hart Lane, they collided in a WBO title defense that turned triumph into tragedy. Watson was a warrior, smart, tough, unrelenting, and the fight was a brutal chess match. For 11 rounds, they traded blows, Eubank's flair meeting Watson's grit. In the 12th, Eubank unleashed a devastating uppercut, dropping Watson. Moments later, Watson collapsed, the referee stopping the fight. Eubank won, but the victory was hollow. Watson suffered a brain injury that left him in a coma for 40 days, partially paralyzed for life. The aftermath was a reckoning. Fans wept, the sport reeled, and Eubank stood at the center of a storm. Some blamed him, others the referee, but the truth was stark, boxing's risks had never been clearer. These fights, Benn, Watson, weren't just wins or losses, they were chapters that defined Eubank's career and reshaped the sport's conscience. They showcased his brilliance, but also its cost, leaving a legacy as complex as the man himself. Controversy shadowed Eubank like a persistent foe. The Watson fight was the darkest mark, questions swirled about why it wasn't stopped sooner, why the ringside medical care faltered. Eubank didn't throw the last punch in anger, but the weight of that night clung to him. Critics pointed fingers, fans mourned, and the sport scrambled to tighten safety rules. It was a wound that never fully healed, a shadow over his crown. The Benn rivalry stirred its own tempests. That 1990 win drew whispers of favoritism, had the referee been too quick to stop it? The 1993 draw fueled more debate, some arguing Eubank's showboating cost him a clear victory. These moments painted him as a polarizing figure, hero to some, villain to others. Yet Eubank wore it all with defiance, insisting his style and substance spoke louder than the doubters. Love him or hate him, he forced the world to watch, to argue, to feel, a lightning rod in gloves. After the ring, Eubank's life didn't fade, it evolved. The Watson tragedy hit him hard, he'd later call it the moment that changed him, pushing him to speak out for fighter safety. Retirement in 1998 didn't dim his light, he became a commentator, his voice as sharp as his jabs, dissecting fights with the same flair he once brought to them. TV beckoned too, reality shows, documentaries, where he revealed a softer side, a man grappling with fame's highs and lows. Fatherhood became his next chapter. His son, Chris Eubank Jr., stepped into the ring, and Eubank Sr. stepped up as trainer and mentor. Their bond grew through sweat and sparring, a father passing down not just skills but lessons, of discipline, of resilience, of navigating a brutal sport with care. It was a redemption arc of sorts, a chance to shape a legacy that honored the past while safeguarding the future. Eubank's journey is a tapestry of extremes, from a troubled kid in Peckham to a king of the ring, from dazzling highs to haunting lows. He didn't just fight, he redefined what a fighter could be, blending charisma with courage in a way that gripped a nation. His battles with Benn and Watson didn't just make headlines, they made history, sparking rivalries that still burn in fans' memories and reforms that saved lives. Controversy came with the crown, but so did impact, his voice, his style, his story reshaping British boxing's soul. Today, as Eubank Jr. carves his own path, the father's shadow looms large, not as a burden, but a beacon. Chris Eubank Sr. is more than a name on a record, he's a symbol of what boxing can be, thrilling, flawed, human. His life is a saga of transformation, from the streets to the spotlight, from warrior to wise man, leaving echoes that ripple through the sport and beyond. This is Chris Eubank, a legend whose gloves may hang silent, but whose story still roars.